So today, lads, we're going to be talking about Becky Hammon, who seems to be losing her damn mind.
Becky Hammon is seeing red after the Indiana Fever pulled off the unthinkable against RAGES Wilson. In a jaw-dropping move that left fans stunned and tempers flaring, the Fever didn't just rattle cages, they shattered expectations. Now Hammon's rage is boiling over, and the basketball world is holding its breath.
And they were getting stopped. Now, honestly, I kind of disagree with her when she's saying, it's more so us because it happened with multiple teams. Look, the Indiana Fever came out and just smacked you guys in the mouth, all right? They smacked you guys in the mouth, and the defense was suffocated, all right? And the evidence shows where they were suffocating the Lynx. They did the same thing to y'all, all right? So the evidence lies there too. So maybe you could have said 50-50. I would have agreed with that. That's fine.
Becky Hammon is absolutely livid. And honestly, who could blame her? What the Indiana Fever did wasn't just crossing a line. They took a bulldozer to it. They didn't just beat the Las Vegas Aces. They embarrassed them, humiliated them, and made a statement so loud it echoed through the entire WNBA. RAGES Wilson, the face of the league and Hammon's star player, was left shell-shocked in the middle of this brutal spectacle. Nobody saw it coming, and nobody was prepared for the sheer dominance Indiana unleashed. It wasn't just unexpected, it was outrageous, unbelievable, and a wake-up call no one can ignore.
So it goes on to say Hammon called out team's effort on both ends, but especially the defense, which allowed the Sparks to shoot 56.9% from the field. Now, I can honestly say, like I said in the last video, RAGES Wilson down there in the paint, it's a huge difference when she's not down there, okay? But the second she was hurt, man, they had buckets on buckets on buckets inside the paint, and even when she was out of the game. So, yeah, you can really see that RAGES Wilson is something else in that paint.
The game began like any other, intense, competitive, and fast-paced. The Las Vegas Aces, led by their powerhouse RAGES Wilson, were expected to dominate. After all, this is a team with championship DNA, coached by one of the sharpest minds in basketball, Becky Hammon. Wilson was in MVP form, locking in early, driving the lane like a freight train, and sinking mid-range shots with surgical precision. It looked like business as usual for the Aces.
Since this Big Brother season, I have to say, you have to expect the unexpected, because the Aces getting their ass beat by Indiana Fever was not on my bingo card in this type of fashion. I really try to be optimistic, but I am not as strong as Betty when it comes to the Aces. I've had it up to here. This is so unacceptable. You can't tell me that this is acceptable here.
But the Indiana Fever had other plans. From the very first possession, you could feel it. This wasn't the same team people had counted out and laughed off just weeks ago. No, this squad came out swinging like they had something to prove. They played with urgency, grit, and undeniable swagger. There was a chip on every shoulder and a fire blazing in every pair of eyes. The energy in the arena was electric, like everyone knew they were witnessing a statement. And this wasn't just about getting a win, it was about pride, redemption, and sending a message loud and clear.
Professionalism. To come in here with that effort. Complete lack of focus. They played better yesterday in practice by a lot. Wasn't even close. So I don't know how you step onto the floor with 20,000 people in the stands and perform like that. That's one of the worst it is the worst offensive night I've ever seen.
Midway through the second quarter, everything changed, and not in the way Las Vegas expected. RAGES Wilson, the reigning MVP and heart of the Aces, went up for what should have been a routine rebound. But instead of a clean contest, she got body slammed between two Indiana Fever defenders who apparently mistook the game for a wrestling match. One arm was flung across her chest, the other defender's grip tangled around her waist like a seatbelt during a crash. Wilson hit the hardwood with a loud thud, her body sprawled out, and for a split second, the entire arena froze. You could hear a pin drop. And then, like lightning out of a clear sky, Becky Hammon erupted. She shot out of her seat, screaming at the top of her lungs at the officials, who apparently had popcorn butter on their whistles, because nothing came. No foul, no stoppage, just stunned silence and play on. That was the moment something inside Hammon snapped. She wasn't just coaching anymore, she was going to war. Because this wasn't gritty, hard-nosed basketball, it was blatant disrespect. Disrespect to Wilson, disrespect to the Aces, disrespect to the very integrity of the game. And yet, through it all, Wilson stood up. No complaints, no theatrics, just a deadly calm focus that said, keep watching.
If they're going to allow that kind of physicality, my team has to step up and match that physicality.
I knew it.
Period.
I knew you was going.
So we just get, because one team is physical and one team is not. One team is 3 steps behind and one team is not. They got all the 50-50 ball. I mean, they busted our ass in every kind of way. There's no two bones about it. It's one of the worst games I've ever seen.
But the Fever wasn't done yet. They kept pressing, kept hammering, kept pushing every single button like they were trying to break the controller. Every possession felt like a street fight, and every whistle, or lack thereof, turned up the temperature another few degrees. And then came the moment that didn't just light the fuse on Becky Hammon's volcanic eruption, it blew the whole damn mountain sky high. Late in the third quarter, with the score razor thin, Aja Wilson caught the ball at the elbow. She squared up, ready to go to work like she's done 100 times before. But before she could even make a move, a Fever defender came flying in with the subtlety of a wrecking ball, not looking for a clean block, not even pretending to go for a steal. She just ripped the ball out of Wilson's hands and then stood there, taunting her, right there in front of the crowd. And the Fever bench? They lost their minds, jumping, yelling, howling like they just won the championship. One player even stood up and mocked Wilson's signature celebration right to her face. That's when Hammon snapped. She stormed the sideline like a one-woman army, screaming at officials, gesturing wildly, her voice shaking the arena. This wasn't coaching anymore. This was a full-blown battle cry.
We lost to the Fever. To the Indiana Fever. And I'm not even hating. The Indiana Fever are cool. They just won the Commissioner's Cup, yada, yada, yada. But Aja Wilson scored over half our points, y'all. She scored the majority of our points. Where were the rest of you? Do you remember how basketball is played? You know you're supposed to put the ball in the hoop. This is embarrassing. It is embarrassing being an Aces fan. We were up. Not even 5 years ago. Y'all understand that?
But the refs stood firm. No technical, no warning, nothing. And just like that, the Fever did the unthinkable. They got inside Aja Wilson's head. For the first time in what felt like forever, the usually unshakable MVP looked rattled. Her rhythm was off. Her shots started clanking off the rim. Her signature footwork, normally fluid and lethal, looked rushed and panicked. The Indiana defense could smell blood. They tightened their rotations, closed out on shooters with ferocity, and played like a team possessed. With every blocked shot, every forced turnover, and every taunt that went unanswered, the Fever weren't just playing basketball, they were making a statement. They locked eyes with one of the most dominant teams in the league and didn't blink. Every time Aja missed, the Fever gained more swagger. Every time the Aces looked to Becky Hammon for a lifeline, the walls kept closing in. Timeouts didn't work, adjustments didn't work. The momentum had shifted entirely. The Aces weren't just losing a game, they were losing their grip. And by the time the final buzzer echoed through the arena, it was done. Fever 83, Aces 78. Shocking, unbelievable, infuriating. A full-blown statement game. Indiana didn't just win, they announced themselves, loudly, unapologetically, and without fear.
The Fever are in trouble. They don't have their golden goose. They don't have their best player. So what does this team do? They go out and they just continue to play better. Win after win. Big win after big win. Right? The big win against the Lynx last week, a couple of days ago. And then they turn around and play Las Vegas and play like this. I mean, just absolutely dominating. So now, here we go with another pivot. Now it's, the Indiana Fever are a much better team without Caitlin Clark. They're playing so much better without her on the court. Yeah, that was the point.
Becky Hammon stormed off without shaking hands. Aja Wilson headed straight to the locker room. No words for the press, no post-game rituals, just silence. Meanwhile, the Fever bench erupted like they'd just won the championship. And maybe in their minds, they had. Because they didn't just beat the Aces, they shook the very foundation of the WNBA hierarchy. Pundits were stunned. Commentators were scrambling. Fans were split down the middle, some cheering for the Fever's audacity, others condemning their tactics as dirty and disrespectful. But one thing was clear. The Fever had changed the game. And Becky Hammon was not going to let that go unanswered. In the post-game presser, she didn't mince words. She slammed the officiating, questioned the league standards, and vowed that this wasn't over. If that's what passes for acceptable in today's league, she growled, then we've got a bigger problem than I thought. Now all eyes are on the rematch. The Aces have a target. The Fever lit a fire. And Aja Wilson, she's got revenge on her mind. The war is just beginning, and Becky Hammon is ready to burn the rulebook to get justice.
And we're not even in a rebuild. I can't even be like, we're rebuilding, we're putting our pieces together. We still have the majority of our pieces. So, like, how does this even happen? How? How do y'all only score 54 points? Right? Like, hold on, let me double check. Maybe y'all scored 54 points. God bless America. I'd turn the game off. I am driving, and it was distracting me to have the game, just playing out loud because I was getting so upset. So
they said it was going to be a warm-up game, a light jog, a casual stroll through a rebuilding franchise. After all, the Indiana Fever were missing Caitlin Clark, America's golden girl, ESPN's favorite daughter, and the only reason your uncle knows where Indiana is on a map. So naturally, the Las Vegas Aces, two-time defending champs, self-proclaimed juggernauts, and poster children for WNBA dominance, strolled into town expecting a victory lap. But what they got instead was a full-blown comedy special, starring them as the punchline. Let's not sugarcoat it. They got whooped. Not tight game, whooped. Not bad calls, whooped. We're talking 27 points. That's not a loss. That's a demolition job. That's getting dunked on by the intern who was supposed to just hand out water bottles. And the kicker? Caitlin Clark wasn't even in the building. She was probably at home, sipping iced tea, watching Netflix, and still had more impact on the game than Aja Wilson. Oh, poor Aja. Remember when she was untouchable? When just saying her name sent chills down opponents' spines? Fast forward to this game, and she looked like someone trying to return a blender at Walmart. Confused, frustrated, and completely ignored by customer service, which in this case was the Indiana defense.
The Indiana Fever just beat down on them Aces by 27. Oh, you thought they was gonna have a championship hangover? After they spent a little quality time together, drinking champagne out of a commissioner's cup. They recognize that these players don't like them, but they love it. Because they don't give a fuck. Kelsey Mitchell can score 30 if she wanted to. She was 9 for 18 from the field and 4 for 6 from the trade. Told y'all, man. I told y'all. The WNBA, y'all in trouble. Because this team, they psycho. You beating teams by 27 like it's nothing without your superstar. Them days where you can push around the Fever because of their toughness is over.
The Aces offense? Think of it like a toddler trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. Lots of effort, zero results, and everyone else just standing around pretending not to laugh. The shots weren't falling. They were plummeting like they'd been fired from a trebuchet aimed directly at the backboard. And somehow, every rebound bounced straight into Indiana hands like the ball itself was tired of Vegas and wanted a change of scenery. And let's talk about the fans. Oh, Aces fans. The bold, the loud, the Twitter warriors who have trust the process tattooed on their hearts and not worried written in Comic Sans on their timelines. They came in puffed up, already tweeting out memes before tip-off. No Caitlin? Easy dub. By halftime, those same fans were on social media trying to delete old tweets like they were hiding evidence from the FBI. Meanwhile, Indiana played like they'd been insulted at brunch. No Caitlin? No problem. They brought receipts. They brought rage. They brought defense like it owed them rent money. Every possession was a masterclass in, we're not here to be your sparring partner. It was gritty, intense, and, judging by Aces fans' faces, absolutely not part of the script.
I've had it up to here. This is so unacceptable. You can't tell me that this is acceptable here. Do you guys know that Asia's contract is up like next year? And with this expansion team, maybe she might want to go somewhere else. Because this is unacceptable. Asia is back to wearing her white tee. Ain't shit funny white tee. And it's just really not funny anymore at this point. I know we're a month in and stuff, but like enough. Wait, it's July now. Whatever. Enough is enough. Enough simply is enough. This is so unacceptable.
The Fever bench? Oh, they were living, laughing, celebrating every three like it was a graduation. high fives flying, towels whipping, and at one point, someone on the Indiana sideline looked like they were trying to teach a dance routine. Meanwhile, the Aces bench looked like they were waiting at the DMV. Blank stares, deep sighs, and the occasional, "How did we get here?" glance into the void. But the best part? The online meltdown. Aces fans became part-time conspiracy theorists and full-time meme generators. Someone posted a photo of Aja looking bewildered with the caption, "When you realize the Fever don't need Caitlin to cook you." Another just said, "Our dynasty is fine," followed by a nervous smile emoji and 20 prayer hands. Vegas fans swore it was just one game. But deep down, you could feel the existential panic setting in. If this is what the Fever look like without their star, what happens when she's back? Does it become a 40-point beatdown? Will the Aces even make it past Indiana in the playoffs? Or will this game go down as the beginning of the Great Collapse? Aces edition? Whatever it is, one thing's clear. The Fever are cooking. And the Aces? They just became the main ingredient. Roasted, sautéed, and served with a side of regret.